Hey folks, this is Clay Dennis with Southern Hearth and Patio. Today we're going to talk a few minutes about how to light pilot lights, especially on your gas logs. There's going to be a couple of different valve systems we're going to talk about. It'll take just a few minutes, but every valve is a little bit different. So we're going to show you how to determine what type of valve you have, and then I'm going to show you how to light that pilot. To better understand how to light the pilot, it's important to understand how a pilot light actually works. What I've done is I've drawn kind of a simple valve right here, and this is going to look a little different on some of your valves, and that's okay, but the concept is going to remain the same. We're going to push in a plunger. Now the plunger, what we're going to show you in a second, is going to be the knob that says pilot on and off typically. And what we're doing is we're going to push this plunger down, which pushes our gas disc down. That's going to allow a little bit of gas to flow through the valve and out through the pilot valve, or the pilot orifice. The small amount of gas will come down here. You'll strike an igniter or light it with a little match. And what it'll do is as that pilot light heats this thermal device, okay? Could be a thermocouple, could be a thermal pile. We'll talk about that in a minute. It's not important right now. But what this does is this sends a small electrical charge back up to here, which magnetizes this plunger. Then you can once this holds, you can release the push button. Okay, this process is known as the thermocouple bypass. Okay, what you're doing is you're pushing it in and holding it in long enough to allow a little bit of gas to light the pilot. Once the pilot holds, it heats the thermal device. The thermal device holds the valve open, and then you can release your thumb. So when you start to do this a couple of times and you can't figure out why is the gas not working, why I can't get the pilot light to hold, a lot of times it's just taking a few minutes to get this hot enough to generate this charge. If you're not getting gas through at all, that's a different problem altogether, and we'll talk about that as well. Before you attempt to light the pilot, let's make sure that the gas supply to the fireplace is turned on. Look for a valve similar to the one shown here. If the knob is turned to the left or to the right or perpendicular to the gas line, then the gas is shut off and lighting a pilot is going to prove to be pretty frustrating. Turn the valve knob so that it's in line with the pipe itself, and that way we know that gas is supplied to the fireplace before we try lighting the pilot light. You may also have a key valve like the one shown here. The face of the key valve is called the escutcheon, and on the escutcheon will be a set of directions turning to the left or to the right. Follow those instructions to make sure that the gas is supplied to the fireplace. The first type of pilot assembly we're going to talk about today is called a SPK, or a safety pilot kit. This type of control valve is generally found on vented gas logs without remote controls. Manual safety pilot kits are probably the most common on vented gas logs, and they can be a little confusing depending if they're on the left or on the right. If you look right here on the control valve, you can see what appears to say on, pilot, and off. Now these stickers, these are just stickers, and if they were on the right hand side of the control valve, which they are sometimes, then they would read properly, off being at the top, on being whatever. But the pilot always needs to turn away from the gas log, regardless of whether they're right or left. If it's facing away from the gas log, then the system is off. Here you can see on, pilot, and off. And you can also see up here the actual pilot assembly typically sits on the same side of the gas log as the control valve between the front and back logs. What we're going to do is we're going to turn the pilot. We're going to kind of turn it here in the middle, and you may need to push it in a little bit to get it started. If your control valve is on the left, the pilot will be at the bottom. If your control valve is on the right, the pilot word will be pointing upright. Now we're going to perform the thermocouple bypass we discussed by pressing in the control valve. And you can hear a little bit of gas coming through. I'm going to light my pilot. I'm going to hold it for 15 to 20 seconds. And as that pilot continues to heat, the thermocouple is going to activate the magnetic part of the valve, and we'll release. Okay, the pilot light is holding. Now it's not uncommon for this to take place probably 2 or 3 or 4 times. If you haven't lit it in 3 or 4 months, it's going to take a little while to get some of the air out of the line, so don't get frustrated if it doesn't work the first few times. Now, once this is on, we're going to push in slightly, turn on the main valve, and everything is working properly. The second type of control valve we're going to talk about today is called the APK, or the Automatic Pilot Kit. These types of systems are found on vent-free units or vented units with on and off or thermostat remote controls. They are not variable height remote control. The common type of control valve you're going to find on a non-vented set is going to be just a standard millivolt control valve. Millivolt control valves have two distinctive dials. One will simply say on, off, and pilot, and the other will have a variable high to low control valve. Now, this particular type of valve is not going to do variable height with the remote control. It's only going to be a manual adjustment, but there will be an easy hookup for remote control for both thermostat remote and on and off remotes simply by 2 wires. On this particular type of control valve, what you'll see is a notch to the right, and that notch, or it could be a little dash, will point to a particular position on the control valve. Here you can see off. We'll switch this to pilot, press it in. You can see that there's actually 2 different positions here. Pushing it in slightly kind of relieves tension, and then pushing it in further allows, you can actually feel the tension there, and that's going to allow the gas to flow through the pilot assembly. We'll press our igniter, and you can see the pilot lights lighting up. You can see the blue flame is heating up our thermopile right here. We'll give that a few seconds here. We'll begin to release it slowly, and if it holds, we're good. All right, now we're going to switch to the on position. The number one mistake people make is they leave it in the pilot position and they get frustrated when they turn the on and off switch. Nothing works. Nothing's going to work until you activate the on position. So now we're in the on position. We're going to cycle to the on your millivolt switch, and we're ready to roll for the year. Just remember, if you turn it on by remote control, you have to turn it off by remote control. If you turn it on, off by the switch or on by the switch, that's your master as well. So whichever way you turn it on or off, that's what you got to go back to. The third type of system we're going to be talking about today is also called an APK, but with a variable height remote control. These type of systems can be found on both vent-free and vented gas logs, again with a variable height remote control. When dealing with variable height remote control valves, there's 2 different buttons here, and so you're going to have to kind of pay attention to which one you're messing with. The bottom one here, or it depends if it's on the other side on a vented gas log, it could be upright. This is your variable height servo. This is what goes up and down either manually or by remote control. The other one up here, this is your pilot valve. This is your master on and off valve. What you do is you turn it to the full off position, which you see here. Now these here actually have built-in igniters. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't, so it's going to be important to have some type of match light or a lighter or something with you. What we're going to do here is simply push it in, turn it slightly. You'll hear some gas coming out of the pilot, and you turn it past the ignition point. And if you'll notice here, you'll see the pilot light. And we're holding it in just like we talked about during the thermocouple bypass, 25 to 30 seconds. Now we release it slowly. Pilot light is holding. Now remember, we're still in pilot position here, so nothing is going to happen outside of this. So now we're going to turn it to the full on position. Test it by turning on your servo, and your pilot light is lit. As you can see, lighting a pilot light really isn't all that difficult. You just have to know what type of control valve you have. That being said, there's nothing to be afraid of. Just take your time, relax, and it'll go just fine. If you have any questions, or if something doesn't go as smoothly as you'd like, simply give us a call, 423-899-3853, right here in Chattanooga, or check out some of the other videos we have at southernhearth.com.